You know I've been around and doing it, but now it's my time to shine and start proving it. I'm losing it, I'm moving it. The city is where I'm made, Bostonian flow, I kick it a back day. Yeah, I got game, got in a fan way. We the city of the champs, every sport we play. Spit wetter than the harbor, yeah, I'm flowing like the Charles. I be speeding on this beat, call it Turnpike Miles. Yeah, it's Google signing on, John to the Hancock, and I'm always key, I'm ready to unlock. I be doing big things.
Welcome back, everyone, to the newest edition of Once a Week. I'm Billy G. And guys, we have a very special guest for you today. You already know Pierre Panopoulos. He's been a special guest on the show to the point where he is now a co-host of the show. But we got another Greek on here. Vasilis Axios joins us again. If you have not seen the video with him, guys, you got to date back maybe about a year and a half or so. Myself and Vasilis went through probably about an hour and a half deep conversation on business, sales, mindset in the game itself. But I wanted to get him back on. We've been trying to for a couple months now. But today, guys, we want to bring you knowledge on overview of sales and how you approach yourself in the sales game to make sure you succeed, the mistakes and the pitfalls that you find in that, but also tie that together to personal development. So if you're coming in here, you're watching Once a Week, and you're not a salesperson, you're not a business person, you might just be a family man, family woman, whoever it is. Maybe you're just trying to better yourself on a mindset level, spiritual level, whatever it is. I can assure you that these two together, just in what I've seen prior to us hitting the record button, will bring you knowledge, will bring you wisdom to help you with where you find yourself here and now. But guys, I thank you for being here.
Awesome.
You know?
The introduction's amazing.
Off the cuff, right?
It's amazing, yeah.
But no, I appreciate having you back, bro.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
It's
so
cool.
Yeah.
It's very nice to meet, him and come back here and talk to you again. It's good.
So since we last saw over the last year, man, like you've been doing a lot. Prior to us even talking about sales, you've been doing marathons like crazy. Like I want people to follow you on Instagram, dude, because you've been in Morocco, you've been in Greece, but tell them about that process for you, because it takes a specific goal to train for marathons. Yeah. But you're a world traveler marathon runner at this point.
You know what's funny is when I first spoke to you,
it
was actually the training, I think, leading up to Boston.
Right, exactly.
So
I remember that.
We're talking, I think, 2022.
Yep.
Now it makes sense. I think it was December 2022 or November. It was, the first one was to get the actual, like I don't know if it's an addiction you call it, but the feeling of that high when you're running the 26.2, the 26.2 mile
for
runs. Sure. So that first one led to just a consistency of, running every weekend. And then running every weekend, I didn't want to lose that feeling of like optimum performance. Like the idea of a workout, let's say like if you're lifting weights or whatever it may be, you feel pumped.
Yep.
But there's a difference between feeling pumped and feeling so burnt out you can't even have an emotional reaction to, let's say, traffic. Being angry. You know what I'm saying?
Sure. I get that.
So when you're running so much, you're burning yourself out so much, I didn't want to lose that, and that's what it kind of propelled to the next two, and now the next 3 in 2 months from now.
Yeah. Now, when you're running overseas and whatnot, Morocco, Greece, all these areas, the scenery, do you take it in during this race? And you've been to these areas already, but do you take it in, or it's just like full speed ahead?
I mean, to be honest with you, it's very hard to, like, I remember running it. Athens was the most intense thing I've ever done. It was the most miserable run in the entire world.
Yeah.
You start up, 26 miles away from Athens, the stadium, you finish it.
That's pretty cool.
And, man, it's very hard to actually acknowledge anything that's going on around you.
True.
Because you're in so much pain yourself.
Yeah, dude.
Especially Athens. Morocco was tough, but it's different in Athens. I mean, we're talking 10 miles of hills.
Wow.
Along with that, as you're seeing people pass out and get sick, so it's like it messes with your mind.
Yeah. For
so
sure.
I really, when I'm running, I'm not taking those things in too much. Unfortunately.
I get that for sure.
Yeah. But sorry, have you done so like before these marathons and all that you started? What kind of traveling have you done before that? Do you feel as though the marathons are your new way of traveling to see different places?
That's a great question. So prior to running Athens and even Boston, I go back and forth in Greece, Dominican Republic, some of these smaller places, right? Yeah. But I think you hit it on the spot. It gives me a reason to travel. Because just to travel for pleasure, it's not really appealing to me. I want to go for a purpose.
Yeah.
So Morocco, the purpose was to run. My brother lives there. Greece was the purpose to run, and then also get citizenship and figure out all my documents and stuff. But now it gives me a reason to look at other places. Next time will be Jordan in October or September.
Awesome.
And maybe even Colombia down in South America, also in September. But yeah, it gives you a purpose, a reason. And I don't like the idea of just traveling just to travel.
Yeah.
You know?
It's so interesting because, you know, I've mentioned before, it's just everybody has their own way of traveling. Like,
Correct.
for example, I took a motorcycle, you know, through Latin America as
Oh,
much
that's
as possible before COVID. And, you know, but I met so many people who did hitchhiking, who walked, who, you know, would just take buses or anything like that. And everybody has a specific way of doing it or for a specific reason. And this is just another example of that.
I think a big thing, part of it too, is just like you're saying, how you travel.
Yeah.
Like when I'm traveling these places, I really want to like indulge into the culture. I don't go to the high end hotels.
Yeah, no,
you know?
yeah.
When I was in Greece, I mean, I was seeing the villages. I was seeing the village houses.
Yeah.
You know, I just think that's like the real way to really figure out and experience what's going on here.
Yeah.
For sure. I mean, you know, people, even especially in Mexico, a lot of people, when I started my trip, don't go, all these fears, all of these things. And, you know, when you go to these resorts in any place, they're always like, oh, be careful.
Yeah.
Right. But when you go out and you just live as a normal person in what is the reality of that area, of course, there can be dangerous places and dangerous times. But overall, you're really feeling that and you're existing within that. It's very nice. You know, you learn a lot.
I can tell you, after I was in Morocco and I was just like, I'm just gonna look at flights. I was looking at flights from Boston to Afghanistan. I was thinking, is it even possible? I don't even think you can fly there.
Oh.
But I think the more I'm traveling, the more risk taking and like not allowing a stigma to make me feel like I can't go there. I mean, would I actually go there? Probably not.
Yeah.
But
just to see.
Man. I just want to see, like, I think the more someone tells me not to go to a place, the more I'm attracted to.
I agree. And, you know, there's a guy on YouTube, I think it's Mike Santinello, and he went to Pakistan, he went to Afghanistan, all of these places, and the beauty that's over there. And it's interesting because, you know, I'm in the same boat. I'm like, would I ever go there? Having seen his videos, a lot of those places are extremely similar to Mexico, and I'm like, it's just another place.
Yeah, Mexico for me, like, honestly, I'm probably more scared to go to Mexico than most countries in the Middle East.
Yeah.
Because of like the ideas of the cartel.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's so interesting, you know, and it's like when you and that was the thing when I first started my trip. Everybody was like, they're gonna kill you. You're gonna die. And I was at a point with my life and my travels that I was truly willing to do that, to go experience this thing that I felt that I needed to experience so much. You know, and you get down there, and of course, the cartels are a huge thing down there. They're all over the country.
Did you see it? Like, I mean, did you see like
that's the beauty of it, is that, you know, they, for the most part, they keep to themselves.
Yeah.
And as long as you're smart about when you go out and where you go out, you're not going to have a problem.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of the problems I had in Mexico were actually with the police, and, you know, some of the locals that were not cartel related. And so it's like this one thing that people look at and they're like, this is the thing that you need to look out for. And it's like, no, it's actually around every corner. And yet you can't think about, you have to be on your toes, but you can't think of it as I'm in a dangerous area. You have to just think of it as
stick out even more too.
Yeah.
If you're thinking like, walking on your tippy toes.
Yeah.
Too much,
I mean, so like, you know, let's say, is there anything, you know, within your travels or any place that kind of stuck out to you in terms of a risk that you took or something that was around you?
I mean, for me, I'll be honest, you know, I went out with a Moroccan girl when I was actually in Morocco, in public, you know, like, so over there, I'm still kind of trying to understand to what extent is like allowed, like based off how, when I go to these places, I really want to respect, you know, the people. Like, that's number one for me. I'm not going to push boundaries.
Yeah.
But over there, unless you have cards, you get like a marriage certificate, but it's a small little card. Unless you have that, a woman is not allowed to come back into the place in which you are staying.
Wow.
They actually have security, and I never brought anyone back, but they will ask you for these documents.
Wow.
So being in public, unless you're married, it kind of like, you can kind of feel the eyes on you.
Yeah.
Because it's not part of the culture to have girlfriends and boyfriends.
Yeah.
It's just immediate marriage.
Very interesting.
You know?
Yeah.
So that was definitely something I was a little bit cautious of, for sure.
Yeah.
And then number two, some of the parks in Greece going through at night.
Yes.
I don't know what I saw when I was there, but
For sure.
it can be a little bit risky over there.
They can get that.
Yeah.
you guys bring up a lot of key points. I don't mean to cut you off, Peter,
No,
but one thing that sticks out, whether we're talking about the running or we're talking about traveling to another country, the mindset of it, but both of you having world traveled to so many different areas, you pointed out something very important that I want people to grasp here is the stigma of these other countries has completely changed for you. Freedom has now come in where you're like, you know what? I'm not going to let what the United States says about that country prevent me from going over there. You have a freedom that most people do not have because they're looking at it through the lens of the world that our country tells them, oh, you can't go over there, cartel, whatever it is. Peter's like, I still want to experience. So you have more confidence, more freedom in life because now you've set your mind to, there's so much more to offer than just what we see between, the screen right now.
I think maybe what it is like, I mean, you should, so because nothing happened to me doesn't mean it won't happen to someone else.
Exactly.
I will say that. But point two being is like, if you respect the culture, you're going to be fine. Meaning like in Morocco, it's not illegal to have alcohol. There's certain places you can drink alcohol. But in the culture and in the religion, it's kind of prohibited. It's considered haram. So if you go there and you drink like a fish, like people drink in, let's say, Boston, like you're setting yourself up for a bad situation. So like when I'm going to these places, if it's no drinking or if it's a bad idea, I'm not touching anything. In Greece, it's a little bit different. You know, if you're in the areas and you know your way around. But in a place like that, in a culture like that, if it's prohibited for the people living there, then I'm not going to act like I'm a tourist and go drink my face off.
For sure.
Yeah, I mean, same thing in Mexico is a lot of people were afraid. And I think one thing that I noticed a lot when I was down there was that people traveling to Mexico, a lot of them kind of had their nose up to the locals. And that's what you're saying. It's like you have to immerse yourself in the culture. And obviously you're going to be an outsider, but you want to be respectful and you want to show like, no, I'm here to live with how you, like live. You, how you do. I'm not here to, I'm not here to cause ruckus or anything like that. I really want to feel this out. And I don't know, it sounds like what you experienced in Morocco as well, but it's like 98% of the people are just so open and nice and willing to kind of show that to you, and they're actually happy to do so. So it's a beautiful thing. Travel in general.
I think you just don't make, like I said, you just don't make a huge splash and don't be, I don't know if it's above the radar, obnoxious. Like in Greece, a lot of the problems when I was in Zakynthos was like a lot of the British people are very loud and they drink a lot. I don't want to generalize, but some were drinking a lot. Like the locals there don't like that. Like, it's not a good look. If I'm going somewhere, I always look at, okay, what are the rules? What's the traditional like way of living here? And I just abide by that. And you're safe. I feel fine.
That's totally agree.
So let me transition this topic a little bit more to, like you mentioned, travel, business stuff right here. But there's something that I love about you, dude, where you're 25 years old. But you've experienced life, you've experienced business and sales probably more than most 50, 60-year-olds. And so I want to tie into people right now, connecting it to the sales aspect. You explained something to us prior to even recording where you're in a position now where you have people under you, you're, real estate broker, everything like this, you've succeeded in all these areas. You have people under you that are coming into real estate, but the sales game, the business game. And they're looking at the world, they're like, all right, if I'm going to follow this person on Instagram or whoever it is, and they've been in the game for 20 years, if we look at Grant Cardone and we try and do what Grant Cardone does on day one, we fail. We hit mistakes. So you've developed a way to approach people through all your experiences where if someone comes in at level one, I've been on level one, I can teach them what they need at level one to succeed. I don't teach them from level 10 talking to level one. So explain a little bit of that to us, and if it connects to the world travel, we'll keep the ball rolling. I
think this is the biggest thing because I used to go to these conferences, Grant, Ty Lopez, and what happened was I'd see these people on stage and they're talking about their $1 billion problems.
For sure.
That's not relative to someone who's getting into the business first 2 years. I mean, maybe you're that crypto, you get that crypto bump, whatever. I don't know, you're not a billionaire, but I hated trying. You can't level with someone if they are experiencing problems that are way ahead of you. So when I'm talking to people that just start, I'm doing the same things that I did when I just started, just at a higher level. Right? I'm leveraging a little bit more. 10 years in the business, you're thinking about the things that are working now, which is ads. You already have a foundation, you already have a referral business. So you're not more so trying to build a bigger database. The database is coming to you to be built, right? So I think number one thing, for someone who's just getting sales, real estate business itself, is to number one, do the stuff that costs the least amount of money to do.
Yep.
Your time is not worth more than more than money.
Yes,
is the correct saying?
for sure.
When you start out, your time is not worth more than money. Like you don't have money, so like unless you have that 100,000 to just like put into the business to try to bring you business,
Yep.
You got to really work on the idea of I'm less than money.
For sure.
It's really worth.
Yeah.
And that means cold prospecting, door-to-door sales,
Everything you did.
mailings, everything like this that costs you time, but not actual margin.
And you paved the way. That's what you did. Like when you lived in California, you did door-to-door sales, everything like that. And so now when you get to approach people, I love it because I can look at it not necessarily from a sales approach, but from a coaching approach. So for people watching this for personal development concepts, whenever I have a client, like you can see other coaches in the world and they can post their best testimonials and best results they bring people. So when people sign on, they expect that here now, first session, I want this, or after a couple sessions, why aren't I seeing the same results they did? You're different. You know, when I approach a client, whatever age it is, I have to meet that person where they're at and guide them from that place up the ladder. They might have pitfalls, hurdles, walls that prevent them from achieving the progress that someone else did quickly. It's the same thing for the sales game. You know, level one, hey, you're going to hit all these hurdles. Let me prevent that for you by meeting you where you're at and guiding you around each one. You know?
Yeah, and you know, I think one of the most important things is you definitely want to guide them around some stuff, but they also have to, you know, kind of, I'm trying to think of the Greek phrase is nafasta mutrasu, but in English it's like, you know, eat your face, I guess. Fall on your face, right? Yeah. And so, but I think what's very important about, you know, what you said in terms of, you know, we talked about scaling before, but the ability to meet someone where they're at, and what you just talked about as well, the ability to meet somebody where they're at, as opposed to saying, well, I have 15 years experience, let's talk about it up here, is break it down to wherever they are, right? And that's something with teaching as well. It's something that, you know, it has to exist. It has to, any form of education, you have to be able to meet the person where they are and build up from there, right? And so, you know, definitely resonates with a lot of what you both are saying.
When it comes from the teaching aspect, like for me still, dude, I don't know the difference between verbs, adverbs, adjectives. I still don't know the difference between these things. And the problem with that being in school, I remember after the point of learning those things, I didn't understand it fully. And then they kept on teaching higher level things.
Yeah, for sure.
So I had a huge difficulty on learning the things above. So I always preach the idea of work by like levels. What is this? Gradients. Gradients. If I don't know how to speak, you know, basic English, I can't be thinking about speaking with these bigger words or using adverbs, using verbs, you know what I'm saying? So I think I think being level with someone is like the best.
I agree to that.
You know?
Definitely.
Absolutely. I mean, talk to us a little bit about the cold calling you did in California, and you know, what did you get out of it as a person, and as a salesperson, as a business person in general?
I think going into it, so I did door-to-door sales prior to actually moving out there. I did it for like maybe 6 months here in Boston. Out of Natick and Newton. And my first door, to this day, I can remember the color of the door and everything. I mean, my heart was like pounding. So freaking nervous. I'm thinking, what am I going to say? I'm not an extroverted person at all. And I think I went into this a little bit last time. But the idea being was, this is a lot to conquer. You know, speak to someone they don't know and like just cold call, cold door, you know, door knock. Through time, I built that, like, I don't want to say swag, but a little bit, like, I know I could do this and I could speak to everyone. So I do all these different things, you know, and test myself. Someone's walking on the side of the street. One way to do it is to always say, hey, how you doing? Or smiling. Being a little bit more confident than the person who's walking towards you. And through the time from there, moving out to Cali, from that point on, like, it helped me, number one, in business, because the confidence. I'm willing to take risks. I'm okay with someone getting mad at me and like not giving it back too. And even on a social level, speaking to girls too. That's a problem. Is like a lot of people become introverted because the apps. They're all using the apps nowadays. Hinge, Bumble, Tinder. I don't know. Tinder Plus. I don't know what it is.
For sure.
So that being said, is like building that high level of communication and confidence, speaking to people face to face, is so valuable. I can tell you, I would not. There's no amount of money that I would take to lose that skill.
Good for you.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I mean, that ability to kind of overcome that initial barrier of communication, just find something simple to start up the conversation with, anything like that. I mean, and that's the thing with cold calling or door-to-door or anything like that. You are actually starting to form that within yourself. You start to see and create the thing that you can deliver most efficiently and the way that it'll open the door properly.
Right.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
I love that, especially the real world examples too. Like you mentioned, talking to girls, whatever it is. Communication is the bottom line.
Yeah.
Sales game or just humanity. You know, it's like if you can speak for yourself and you're confident in how you carry yourself, people feel that.
And I think eye contact.
Yes,
Huge.
100%.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
and that is so important to me. Now I don't really think of it as much. I used to listen. It's not. I don't think it's good to stare at someone's eyes for too long.
Yep.
Right.
But there is a point that someone can read, like, wow, this person's talking to me and staring at me in the eyes. Like, is he lying? Probably not. Because how can you look at someone and be lying?
Yeah.
So that builds a form of trust.
For sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Definitely. Not even in just a sales game too. I look at that just people you pass. You mentioned walk around saying hello to people on the street.
Yeah.
And it could be a stranger. I'll ask someone how's their day going, and I'm just like, hey, what's going on? How you doing? And you got people like, oh wow, and they're so
so shocked by
right? They're shocked by it. But then you have I've had conversations with people before in the gym or wherever it is. Hey, how's your day going? Oh, it's fine. And it's like that's an insecurity on their end.
Yeah.
But are they insecure because they can't carry themselves, or are they insecure because you're so confident? And it's just all these questions we ask
It can
ourselves.
be a little overpowering.
Yeah.
When someone walks in a room and they're like, smiley and just ready to go and they don't even know you.
Right.
It can definitely make you feel a little bit reserved.
I get that
For sure. And when they're looking at the ground, that's the thing. When you're passing by them on the street, if you're making eye contact, they usually put their head towards the ground. So if you say, hey, how you doing? Usually they lift their head up and they'll at least acknowledge it, which they appreciate. They appreciate it.
It's something that's, we talk about this all the time. There are certain things in society today that are just completely missing, right? And not completely, but, they have diminished significantly.
Yeah.
And so the things that we're talking about right now, these are the things that kind of wake people up from this monotony, and they're just like, oh wow, I matter, this person wants to know about me, and hey, let's try this out. And like we talked about in another podcast quite a while ago, I would say, it's the ability to accept somebody for where they're at in that moment when it comes to those social aspects as well. It's like, hey, maybe it's going to the gym, for example, right? You see somebody consistently, and you start off and you say the hey, and they'll look away, and slowly but surely as the days go by, they're like, oh wow, this person actually wants to chat, and so they'll kind of pick their heads up, and you kind of light that confidence inside of them again. And
it's
true.
It's really funny because I was having a conversation with a relative of mine yesterday, and he had went on a date with someone, right? And he said it was a great date, and he had texted her after, like, oh, I had a good time, blah blah blah. And I think she maybe sent like a thumbs up or something, right?
Yeah.
So he called me. He's like, dude, what the hell is this? She barely acknowledged the idea. And I told him, listen, man, sometimes it takes about 12 text messages to get something. I actually had a scenario fairly recently where I went on a date, probably 3 dates with one girl, right?
Yeah.
And then 5 months went by, nothing, no answer. And I look back at my texts, and I probably texted her 12 times.
Yeah.
On the 13th text, she answered, right?
Yeah.
So that's the sales part of things. It translates to literally everything.
Yes.
I don't get affected. I told her because I met up with her that fourth date, and I was like, listen, I don't feel offended. That's how what I'm used to. So I think it builds that thicker skin too.
For sure.
You can be like a little pest. You can be a total pest.
Right?
Yeah.
I get that.
Yeah.
It's true though. You have to have that thick skin in life.
Yes.
Everything. Everything.
Sure.
Yeah.
Right?
For sure.
And we're seeing less and less of that in society. We're teaching people to have less and less.
And persistency is being persistent is so important as well.
So
what we're talking about. It's like, the thing that I'm sure you notice about in sales as well when it comes to brokerage and all of that stuff, or just sales in general, you have to be top of mind for everybody consistently.
Yep.
And you have to be willing to hear nothing for a long amount of time. Exactly what you just said.
Yeah.
Even in business as well, you have to be willing to hear nothing for a long amount of time. And then eventually it breaks through that person's reality,
Yeah.
and they're like, oh, hey, sorry, I've been busy, let's do this. But
Yeah.
if you weren't persistent in that way,
Yeah.
and you
Yeah.
weren't consistent with it, then you would just completely disappear from their lives.
Yeah.
I would rather a reaction. Like I had a client, his property's under contract. Took me 3 years to get it. It was
Wow.
vacant for 3 years.
Wow.
And he never wanted to use me. He wanted to sell it to a neighbor. And I told him, listen, the neighbor's sketchy, but go ahead. If he gives you, the money you want, then you should do it. I told
Yeah,
him straight
yeah.
up. And I kept calling him. Eventually, he texted me. I go by Vinny in work.
Yeah.
Because they asked me how to say my name. It's just a whole other problem.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Oh, we both
That
know
Greek
that.
size.
So I say-
Greek
I
size.
just- So I say, Vinny. He goes, God damn it, Vinny. I'm at a funeral. And I'm like, oh shit. I've been
Yeah.
bothering this guy for a long time.
Yeah.
Week later, I call him again. He calls me back a day after. Listen, come by the house.
Yeah.
Took me 3 years.
Yeah.
A lot of pests. Him calling me. I don't know what type of names he called me, but not
Yeah.
nice. Was not nice.
Yeah.
But now he loves me because the
Yeah.
property's under contract in 24 hours.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's what I'm saying. Sometimes, because I know it's in his best interest for me to do what I was doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't feel bad about it.
That's the beauty of business, is that you do things providing a service, understanding that it is to benefit that person. And yeah, listen, we all got to pay our bills, right?
Yeah.
Right.
But when you're doing it out of passion of how am I going to help this person,
Yeah.
and I'm going to remain persistent because yes, I'm going to get something out of it, but I'm also providing that service
Correct.
to that person, no matter how long it takes,
Mhm.
right? And I think eventually when people break through whatever it is that they made their preconceived notions about what you're trying to do,
Mhm.
and when you're actually, like you said, you like, hey, go with your neighbor if you think that's
Yeah.
going to work, great.
Yeah, it's for your best interest.
And then when it or if and when it fails,
Yeah.
they say, all right, man, let me give this a shot. That guy let me go and do it. I
Yeah.
failed. He knew what he was saying.
Mm.
Let me try this with him now and
Yeah.
see what happens. And then again, you close it within 24 hours, and that's the value that you provide.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He made another 50, 60 than what the person next door was offering.
Yeah.
Mm.
So yeah, I think if you're really sold on what the value can provide, I think it's endless.
Yeah.
You will keep on going and not feel regretful about keep on going because you're going for a good reason.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now, let me make these connections for people watch right now. Like a lot of the stuff we're going over, guys, it sounds like it's coming from a sales perspective, but I want to point out that all this is just life skills.
Yeah.
Because you mentioned the freedom with you guys traveling,
Yeah.
right? Or during the races, and
Yeah.
it's your freedom to choose for yourself what you want to do and following through on it. Now, when we're talking about persistence, and I love what you guys are saying. Being persistent, it could be girls, it could be a sales game, it could be like, hey, I'm at a funeral, whatever it is. But you're constantly hitting the button, and
Yeah.
you're trying and trying. So to give them the other side of the track, with the sales game that you guys have been in, or just life game, when have you been so persistent that you hit that wall so many times, you're like, I gotta change a little bit?
Change.
When does that pop up for you guys? Because with what you're saying right now, you hit the ground running with 13 text messages or calling this guy left and right. But eventually, there's some deals that aren't meant to be yours.
Correct.
So when do you learn that, and then all right, let me at least pivot a little bit.
Mhm.
When does that happen?
Can we go first?
Yeah, go ahead.
I think for me, if they actually if it's on the sales part of things,
Yep.
if they're not answering me after 13 texts,
Yeah, right.
14 phone calls, what I just adjusted and started doing is maybe that client just doesn't want to work with me specifically.
Okay. Yeah.
But how can I keep it all in-house and provide the same
Yeah.
service where I can kind of micromanage it a little bit?
True.
So now I'm passing these
That's
leads
awesome.
down to the people below me.
Yeah.
So then maybe they just need a fresh person to talk to them.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Some people work better with guys. Some people work better with
For sure.
girls. You know,
get
I
that.
think guys actually generally might work better with girls as in real estate. So
Yeah.
Okay.
girls that work very well with girls because a lot of the times they actually want to be handheld. Where guys, we're kind of like we know it all.
Yes.
We know our shit. You know what I'm saying? So I just kind of let it go, pass to the next person, and it just goes in rotation.
Yeah.
Where I can micromanage and make sure everything goes
That's
well,
awesome.
and it's under my service, but it's just a different person.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. I get that. Okay.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I think in general, when it comes to, hey, when do I stop this? When do I not? You really have to go by feel. Right?
Yeah,
When
I
you
agree.
when you are persistent and you realize like, no, I think this person's just busy, or this isn't the time for them, or anything like that, then you can continue. But when you hear a certain tone in their voice or something that turns it off, and you feel that,
Right.
then you're just like, hey, no, I gotta go.
For
It's
sure.
not. It's not here.
I get
Yeah.
that. Yeah, for sure. I can agree to that.
Mm-hmm.
And I find that in my sales approaches, but people. You know, because one thing, the further you grow in your life, not just sales, further you grow in your life, you start to feel other people's emotions.
Yeah.
You know, your family, friends, girls, boys,
Yeah.
whatever that is. But when you're around other people, you notice that they're going through something you know nothing about.
Yes.
So sometimes you get them on the worst day possible.
Yeah.
Right? Like I went up to say hi to someone in the gym the other day, and she just responded with just like a quick hello, hey, how's your morning going? And it's just like straight down, fine, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, carry on.
Yeah.
If I take that with me, I'm going to have a terrible day.
Terrible day.
But on to the next one.
Yes.
You know, but like that's the thing. You have to have that persistence in life, but that pivoting aspect in life too, but not take it so to your heart.
Yeah,
Right?
literally.
With sales, if you take every call to heart, I failed, you're not going to have enough motivation and inspiration to keep going.
Absolutely.
With anything in life, if you take it, oh crap, no, I keep hitting failing, whatever it is, you got to at least take a step back, godly perspective back, and look at that and go, okay, this isn't working. Tweak it a little bit. This starts to succeed.
Yes.
You have to go through, to connect to our next point, you have to go through those pitfalls to be able to learn from the pitfalls to be able to find what succeeds. And prior to us filming, Peter, you brought up an incredible point that we're going to transition to right now. In a sales approach, but also life in general, mistakes of the game allow you to get something out of it.
Yeah.
Can you dive deeper for them right now?
I mean, listen, like when I started my motorcycle journey, for example, like I started here, I made it all the way down to Nicaragua before COVID, and my failures, and when you go into something like this, like my desert story that we had a couple of times back, you set these rules for yourself. You're like, I'm never going to break these rules. In that case, I'm never going to drive at night or anything like that, and you really start to learn it through your failures, right? And you really start to, I think it's something that I've just lived with so much and accepted so much, these failures, this idea of failing as a positive experience, where, again, as I mentioned, with these life and death experiences that were on the road, your mind is calm and off, and your soul is looking at your body, taking this problem and getting away from it. It's these instincts, these programmings that we have that have been so suppressed in society today because everything is just right in front of us and ready. But it takes those failures to really trust yourself, trust your body, and trust the fact that you're going to get through it and you're going to learn something from it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so, when it comes to those failures are the things that, so long as you go through them, you get across to the other side and you really learn from them. You grow into a more knowledgeable person through those failures. And it's just something that, if there's anything to really be able to hold on to, it's the ability to fail and keep going.
Yeah.
Right? Same thing with sales.
Persistence.
Consistency, persistence. It's so important. And, kind of what you were saying to everybody before is like, I want to connect these sales pieces to, the self-growth and all of these things. And what I will say is, prior to the jewelry manufacturing and creating the supply chains and now the tutoring company, I was on a much more spiritual path to understand myself. And that was something that was so important for me.
Yeah.
Right? We've talked about that a good amount. And it's something that benefited me greatly. And yet, the sales portion, the business portion, the portion of communicating with people around you has been equal, if not greater, of a spiritual journey of self-growth for myself than was just the cut and dry spirituality that we try to seek.
For sure.
Wow.
That's awesome.
It's such a beautiful thing that has really kind of broken me out of a shell of a lot of things. Is the cold calling. It's the ability to evolve on the fly and read the room.
Yeah.
And yes, it starts with the self.
Yep.
But it ends with the things around you.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Bravo. Huh?
Yeah. So I want to connect that to yesterday. I had a great call with a friend of mine, very spiritual call. We'll say he needed some advice on certain parts of his life and whatnot. So we talked for like an hour and a half. And in that, he was expressing to me problems that he's facing where he doesn't know which decision he should make. Go this way or this way. Well, if he goes this way, he feels better about himself, but if he hurts other people. And like he has to kind of end relationships, everything like that. If he goes this way, he won't be happy, but he's now helping everyone else be happy because he's like, all right, I'm not just going to put myself on the side. So we continued on this entire process, and it got to a point where I'm going to just say it. Most people were raised. I want to say mostly men were raised, especially with us growing up, that you only felt success in life in some form of competition. We were raised that you had to be the best one, and that made you feel good. And what that did as we grew older is made us have low self-esteem because we would only feel good if we were winning. That's why we all crave winning so much,
point, huh?
right? And so I would explain to him, I was like, the beauty of life is that it's in your failures and losing that you don't allow take you down, where you don't try again. The beauty is if you keep going in that, you eventually win, but you win in the lane you're supposed to be in.
Yeah.
So these failures and mistakes in life are trying to get you. It's like the bumpers on the bowling alley. They're trying to get you to go straight down this path for whatever is meant for you specifically, spirit, soul, everything like that. But when you take that into whatever circumstance you find yourself in now, you then are able to realize, maybe I'm going through this for a reason, but more so, it's not a failure if I keep going. It's not a mistake if I learn from it, because it's trying to get me on the path I'm meant to be on so I can succeed and win at my life. In a competitive standpoint, if you only find success out of competition, that's a fraction of your life. That's a decimal point of your life compared to every single moment. But if you're present in every single moment, finding the peace, the joy, the love, the glory that's in every single moment, that's success. Every moment in your life becomes a success at that point, not based on what everyone else feels, based on what you decide for yourself. But it all comes down to how you see yourself and how you perceive the mistakes or perceive the failures in your life, because they're trying to lead you to the greatest successes you've ever experienced. But connecting to you, man, you've done everything now in sales and business and whatnot. What are some mistakes that you had to pivot from or learn from the most?
Biggest three, I'd say. I was writing these down just the other day.
Nice.
Number one, definitely not setting up a corporation. The first thing I did. Corporation. Biggest thing. I'm not in a tax account. I don't know how this stuff works, but one thing that was huge for me was the self-employment tax thing, 15% in the state of Massachusetts or just federally.
Yep.
That was number one. I should have done that from the get-go. I did 3 years or 4 years of that, and it caused like so many problems.
Okay. Yeah.
So that also leads to the idea of also how to budget correctly. Like budgeting, like I was so bad at budgeting. So figuring out your numbers, if you don't have like guidance, I mean, I will say at least I grew up in a family that were very good with budgeting. Right. You know, always act. You know, there's this funny thing. Whenever you see a Greek say they have no money, that means they have the most amount of money they've ever had. You know what I'm saying? It's totally true. That means they're loaded. And when they say they have a lot, that means they got nothing. Yeah, I'm telling you.
I've seen it in my family, man.
Totally true.
Completely agree to that.
Number two is to not be listening to people who, you know, I listened to some people who've been in business for too long, and their ideas of what worked and what did not work just didn't apply to me. It just didn't work. So I spent time doing things that just didn't fit me. Yeah. Like advertisement, paying for leads, like people use Zillow for real estate. Right. It's the worst investment I've ever made. Like thousands and thousands of dollars, because I based mine off of like a no connection to like me getting into the door to be like, hey, listen, the reason I got into the door and the reason why you should hire me is the point that look how aggressive I was to get here.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's how I'm going to be on the other side when I'm trying to pull out someone else to come purchase your house or whatever it may be. Yes. And then number three, I would say, is we kind of all bottles up to one thing, is really just the advertisement and overspending on things that don't work.
For sure.
I think you got to stick to basics, and sometimes I tried to steer away from the basic things. The basic things are the most difficult. Yep. But if you want longevity, you really got to focus on basics first.
For sure. Yeah, I get that. Yeah. What about you?
I mean, just to kind of point to that, you know, it's something that is so important, is sticking to those basics, right? Those basics are there for a reason. Yeah. And the reason that people do not make it is because they stray away, because they try to find the path of least resistance when it comes to, no, if you just keep doing this, keep doing the basic things in and out, with the understanding that, I forget if it was when we were recording or not, but you talked about how you are less than the money, right? Like your time is less than the money. Correct. It was something that, you know, you have to put in an ample amount of time with no reward at all for quite a long time, so that it can actually start to gain traction. You know what I mean? And so, you know, I would echo a lot of the same things that you said. I mean, when it comes to the taxes and stuff like that, when you're dealing with all of these things on your own, as not as an employee but as an owner of something, you really have to fail at that a lot.
Yeah,
I failed at it countless
And
times.
it's scary, man, because
is.
they say, you know, if you don't do it right, they'll throw you in prison. That's what they say.
Yeah.
You know? You gotta do it right. You know, I'm not meant for prison.
No.
So I'm careful, and that's why it scared me.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you know, and it's, I think, kind of from the conversations that we've had now, you know, it sounds to me like I want you to expand a little bit on how you're growing and scaling and all of that. But it sounds to me like, you know, it takes a certain kind of person to be able to scale a business properly, where the people below them are passionate about what they're doing and don't just get stuck as a cog in a wheel. It's like, yes, there are times where they have to listen, but there's also times where you as the owner have to listen, right?
Yeah.
And there's really a big balance there. So tell us a little bit about the business, the brokering, and the people under you and the tiers that you may have spoken about before.
So number one thing through experience, and it kind of goes back to what we were talking about, but I always say we got to lead with revenue. Like if there's not money coming in, like I'm not putting money out.
Yeah,
like, that's the biggest thing.
For sure.
I mean, anything shiny for these people, I tell them to stay away. Anything shiny. Contracts, people always have you sign up for contracts. Like the biggest things I preach to them are things that really, I guess you could say, are mistakes. Just don't make these major mistakes.
Yeah.
Do the basic things, and you're going to gradually, slowly get better. It's
Sure.
like, I'm not going to tell you how to go from 0 to 5 within 6 months, but I'll tell you how to get to 0 to 1 in the first year, and 0 or 1 to 2 in the second year.
Yeah.
I want gradual growth. I don't want to.
Yeah.
I actually don't.
Sustainable.
Yeah, I don't want a crypto bump.
No.
And then not know how to do it again.
Right.
Like I want to actually have a track record to show and duplicate it time after again.
Yeah.
But as for my people, I think to preach to them things not to do, and then the things to do are just super simple, man. I make it so simple. It's just like phone calls, numbers, how many calls you make, how many appointments that gets you at based off how many calls you make, and how many appointments it takes to close a deal.
Yeah.
That's all I work off. When I start putting in things that are like, I would hire someone, like, let's say for ads.
Yeah.
I can't do ads. Like,
Right.
I can't do ads. I need someone else to do it. Don't try to do ads and figure out how ads work, and then figure out how to do phone calls if you don't know how to make phone calls, and figure out how to, I don't know, be a social media marketing agency at the same time. Right?
Yeah.
It's too much. Just pick one thing and dive in on it.
Yeah.
Very true.
Sure.
And allow yourself the time to not run the ads in the beginning and wait until you've created a bit of a foundation, and then you can actually delegate properly.
Yeah, man.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this. In terms of your business and scaling, it's now you have 6 people. Maybe the next time we talk to you, it'll double that.
Yeah.
As you scale, what's your philosophy on? You're investing a lot of time in people, in helping them, in training them. What is your view on, if or when some of these people end up wanting to go do what you're doing on their own? Like, how do you look at that? Do you see it as? What do you see it as?
That's a great question. It all comes back to about like a year and a half, 2 years ago. I was sitting down with like a mortgage broker.
Yeah.
So these people, they're looking to get your business to do loans for your clients. And we were having a couple drinks, we were laughing, we were having a good time, and they're like, okay, so how do we get your business facility? And I said, dude, just as long as it's fun, I don't care.
Yeah.
That's what I said. Give good loans, give good rates, make it a fun experience for me too. Not just my clients. Like, I want to have fun. If I'm going to give business to you, I want to feel optimistic and like, go ready that I'm working with you. So for my people, I want to be able to provide the fun to them as well. So my whole point to them was, let's get X amount of deals under contract by April. Okay. By April, if you guys get X amount of deals under contract, I'm going to pay for all our tickets to fly out. We're going to go to Vegas. I'm going to run a marathon, and then we're going to have a week of partying, do whatever you want to do.
Nice.
I want to make it feel exciting because a lot of people in real estate, especially typical brick and mortar businesses, are very boring.
Yeah.
It's like dinosaur shit, man. Like it's miserable to be there.
Yeah.
So I want to make it feel like I want them to know I want to do good. I want them to actually do better than I'm doing.
Yeah.
And if they do better than what I'm doing, then we can all do really good.
Yeah, for sure. Shows that you value them.
Yeah.
I
want them to live their life.
Yeah, and that's why I get actually angry because it's like I care so much, almost to my detriment.
Yeah.
because I want them to experience what I'm experiencing, and we all just be on the same level. That's it.
That's awesome.
Because it's creating your environment. I had a problem a couple years back where I was trying to find an environment to fit into. I couldn't find it. So I said, what am I going to do? I'm going to make my own. And that's awesome. You can filter through people and create your environment, and that's your place.
Sure. Good for you.
And that's something that takes a lot of effort, a lot of time, a lot of heartache, a lot of failure, and yet it's something that gives you your time back. And it also gives you contentment in your life and peace in your life, because, I ran through the same thing, and we've talked about this before. It's like, I'm not good at having a boss. I'm well aware of it. One of two things happens, and neither of them are good. And so, going out and doing the motorcycle trip, coming back and saying, no, whatever it takes, I'm going to be my own boss. And that's it.
That's what I'm saying.
And and passions change, and I think that's the beauty of a lot of what we're talking about is like, up until I'd say this past July, teaching was one of my number one biggest passions, right? And now I've really fulfilled that passion. And now it's more so helping others, teaching, the
Other
business
people.
aspect of it.
Okay.
And really, the business side is something that I am so passionate about now, from the jewelry manufacturing with the education company as well. It's something that my passion has completely fulfilled this one and moved on to this one, and it keeps life exciting. It's like, you never know what'll happen in 5 years. Maybe something will pivot into something different, but it's just such a nice thing that you got to shake life up every once in a while,
For sure. You gotta grow. And I can relate to that. And I mean, I guess if I told you about this party, you even get here, it's like things came out of left field for me last week that I would never have in the past taken opportunities on. It's like, screw it, let's go. But that's the shaking up of life. If we're following on this one path constantly, it's the same thing over and over again. It's boring, as you do for your employees and people under you, for that matter. You're bringing them life by having them excel at what they do. Hey, we're gonna go to Vegas. You guys worked your ass off for this. We'll have a week. So you're allowing them to experience life. So it's shaking up the process where they want to keep working for you, but they get to see more. When things come to you out of left field, most people are just like, nope, see ya. But at the same time, you got to question why. Well, if I take a step towards that, will it bring more success in down the line? It's experience. As much as we do jobs, we do business, we do sales, we do whatever you do listening right now, it's about experiencing this life on a different level. How do you do that? You experience more of life to learn more about yourself, to learn more about this life and everything, so you can keep growing. Everything's a growth process, whether it's sales, where you can take something external, make it essentially internal, and believe in yourself to further your external results, or it's just you starting internal on a spiritual journey you mentioned earlier, and just saying, like, you know what, this is me, I'm going to follow wherever this leads, and that creates something external for you. Deep stuff, but guys, this has been an awesome talk. I know. We're a little bit of a time crunch, so I want to kind of close it off, but dude, I want to have you back on for sure.
It's awesome. It's a blast.
I love it. But so in this entire podcast, interview, everything like that, we've gone over overviews of steps when you're starting out with sales and business. Meaning, don't look at it where someone's at level 10 or level 100 and you're coming out the gate where I got to be where they're at. It's trying to see, what do I need to approach now at level 1 that other people have done at level 1 that allowed them to get to level 2. You compare yourself, yes, but you compare yourself more so to everyone when they were at your level. How did they succeed? And that just minimizes the amount of time you spend at a level because, boom, 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 you keep going. We've talked about mistakes of the game actually allow you to get something out of the game. Mistakes allow you to succeed. Failure allows you to win as you approach whatever you're pursuing for yourself. We talked about travel. We talked about business. We talked about your experiences. Vasily, is there one last message you want to leave with people before we close this whole thing out?
I was pondering this. I was like, hopefully he's going to ask me.
Oh, he's going to ask you. Oh, he's going to ask you.
I think I've been thinking about this recently. Like, my perspective has changed so much in business and entrepreneurship in like the last probably 2 years.
Nice. Okay.
One thing being like, dude, if you're looking through social media, like you look at someone who has a Ferrari and like a Lambo, and you're like, damn, dude, they're like crushing, right? And when you peel the banana back or the onion back, whatever, you realize a lot of the times it's not true. You realize a lot of times. And a lot of people who are new, like, I wish I could. I don't know if like someone could actually level with me if they're brand new, because these shiny things look so attractive.
Yes.
But now looking at it from the exterior, that stuff has like there's no value to that for me.
Yeah, good
Not
for
meaning
you.
I don't want a Ferrari.
For sure.
I definitely want a Ferrari.
Yeah, for sure.
But I don't. It's not like I'm gonna do it when
It's
I.
not like I need that.
Yeah, I don't need it. It's not like as appealing, and like that's not what actually motivates me.
For sure.
Like I'm wearing a Garmin, right?
Yep.
This is a Garmin. This is a running watch. Maybe it's $300.
Yeah.
Right. I could go buy a Rolex probably, but this is what I actually need.
Yeah.
So why would I buy a Rolex?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And what am I gonna flash a Rolex?
Right.
I'm gonna make someone feel. It almost just. I think I just remember myself feeling kind of bad because I'm like, damn, I don't have a Ferrari. This person has a Ferrari.
Yeah.
What am I doing wrong? But now I'm realizing I didn't do anything wrong. That's awesome.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
and I think that's a big thing as someone who's brand new, just starting off. Like, don't talk to actual real people.
Yeah.
You know,
For sure.
like real people. You know, with skin.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
And don't be listening to some crazy shit because you're gonna start believing you're behind, or that you need to do things that aren't actually true.
Yeah. Oh, that's
big.
awesome.
I wanna touch on everything you just said and not go too far, into a different thing here, because everything you said is perfect to close this out.
Yeah.
And I think kind of what I gathered from that is make sure you know why you're doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
The Ferraris, the things in the beginning, I follow a couple of people where they're in the Ferrari, they're doing the video 100% a rental, and they are so scared of looking into the camera and away from the steering wheel because they don't want to crash this thing.
Correct.
And you can just tell.
Yeah.
But why are they doing it? They're clearly not doing this business for themselves.
No.
They're doing it for the clout and the whatever.
Yeah.
And so, if there's one thing that I would like to add to what you said and kind of go off of it is make sure that you're doing what you're doing for yourself. And so, yeah.
Oh,
I mean,
that's
awesome.
Yeah, that's a perfect period to it. But guys, there's so much value here for you. There's knowledge here, there's wisdom here, there's areas you can take from whatever part of life you're coming at, whether it's sales, whether it's your own personal self-improvement for that matter. Take these concepts and apply them to yourself. Maybe you are trying to start your own business. How can I come out the gate strong? They just laid it out there for you. Maybe you're someone that, just wants to better yourself in maybe the gym, maybe better yourself with women. We mentioned that a couple times. Maybe just wherever you're leading communication-wise, there's keys to this whole conversation that allow you to move forward. But they left their points, guys. Now we got to go down the line with the Greek boys. Where can they find you, Peter?
The website's at travelingteacher.com. If you want to find more about the motorcycle journey that I did, it's at peter.panopoulos1 on Instagram. Those are the two big ones.
There we go. Right now, where you?
I just utilize Instagram for the most part.
Yep, okay.
Just Vasilis_Axios. Simple.
Awesome. Guys, and you'll see all those at the end of this video in the credits, and you'll also see me tagging them throughout the week. Follow us on Instagram, guys, so you can see clips of this message, but you can also share these clips to other people that might need it, because that's their entire point of being here. If this is your first time here at Once a Week, guys, please like this message below, but also hit that subscribe button. Become a part of this. We now have, believe it or not, guys, we're closing in on 11,000 subscribers.
Wow. That's awesome.
That's awesome, right?
Yeah,
that means we're helping
phenomenal.
people. That's the goal of all
Yeah.
of it.
Yeah.
So if you're new here, guys, hit that subscribe button, become a part of it, but also check out our other videos. Because as much as we went over these key topics today, there might be one that hits you perfectly in the last 8 straight years of videos, right? So there's something there for you. But
consistency, man. That's awesome.
No weeks off, right?
Yeah, that's
No weeks
amazing.
off. But it's been a blast the entire process. But guys, share this message to someone who you feel might need it. Whether it's a clip you see on Instagram, whether it's a video you find, someone might have popped in your head at some key point of this conversation. That's a clear-cut sign to you that they need to hear that part too to help them. Lend a hand, share it to them, and leave it at that. They might never tell you how it helped them, but you know you played a role for them improving themselves. But I thank you so much for being here. If you're looking into my stuff, guys, go to BillyGLifeCoaching.com. You can set up a free call with me. I would love to help you with any coaching aspects or speaking aspects you're looking for. I thank you for being here. And guys, as always, I thank you for being here,
It was
brother.
awesome.
Yeah,
I appreciate
Peter,
it.
as always, man.
It was
Absolutely.
awesome, you guys.
Yeah, it's great to
Seriously,
have you on.
seriously,
Perfect,
yeah.
yeah. Have a good one, guys.
You know I've been around and doing it, but now it's my time to shine and start proving it. I'm losing it, I'm moving it. The city is where I'm made, Bostonian flow, I kick it back there, yeah, I got game, got in a fan way. We the city of the champs, every sport we play. Spit wetter than the harbor, yeah, I'm flowing like the Charles. I be speeding on this beat, call it Turnpike Miles. Yeah, it's Buku signing on, John to the Hancock.